Hey everyone, Cheryl Skolage here with Lipedema Diva, Lipedema Lite Bites. Today is one of my favorite topics, non-scale victories. I'm here with Kelly Maynard.
Hey, it's one of my favorite topics too. I'm Kelly Maynard with Wild Heart Wellness, and we are so excited about this topic. I think it's just close to our hearts with all the women that we've talked to in our group. Such an important thing to talk about.
It really is. So let's get right into it. What is a non-scale victory? So weight and measurements can be valuable pieces of information. So I do always encourage someone, especially if you're starting a new treatment, a new eating plan, anything, go ahead and get your weight and measurements. They're very valuable. When after 6 weeks you go, look at everything I've lost, you want to have those before pictures. You want to have that before weight and measurement. But when you focus solely on those tools, it's not really that great of an idea when we have lipedema, because it might not really get there after the 6 weeks. It might not. So go ahead and, hopefully it will. So go ahead and take those measurements, but look at your non-scale victories as well.
So what does that mean? What is a non-scale victory? A non-scale victory is a success that doesn't have to do with numbers on the scale. And some women, I think, are so focused on that number, on the tape measure, that number on the scale, that they miss so many things that are improving, so many little victories that they have, in so many ways that their quality of life is changing as they're doing all these different things to help themselves. And so if they miss all those things, it's really depressing, because all they're looking at is, well, the number on the scale is the same. I'm failing. I'm still failing. No, you're not. You're not failing.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think it's really important. And one of the things that I love that we're doing this is because I think a lot of lipedema ladies don't realize some of these things that they should be looking at. And so some of the things that we'll be covering, like your skin's cold to the touch, or you don't have hair on your legs. These are some things that I think a lot of women don't realize are issues. And so, I think it's really important that we're doing it for those reasons too.
I think so too. I think it is. And the other thing is, you and I both know from personal experience, you get so bogged down in having to deal with this every day that you forget how you used to feel, and you forget that life isn't all about that number on your jeans or that number on the scale. That's not what it's all about. So it's so important to take a few minutes and realize you are succeeding and your life is improving, and you don't have to get all caught up in that number, even though it's one way. That number is one way,
yes,
to see how you're doing with your health, but it's not by any means the most important or the only way. So I'm so excited to cover what we're covering today.
So without the scale, how are we going to gauge improvement or successes? So some of the easy things to notice are going to be looser fitting clothes. That's always so exciting.
I know. It is. And it's very depressing when you go in your closet and nothing fits.
Yeah.
Because we've all had those days where you think something's going to fit and it doesn't.
And it doesn't.
But you need to also think about the flip side, when something actually fits better, or something you couldn't fit in for a long time, you can get it on. That's really important. Another thing that's easy to notice, if you're paying attention, is decreased inflammation, decreased puffiness. And I can notice that a lot in my face. And I know lipedema it's not supposed to affect our faces, but inflammation can affect your face. It can make you look like you've gained weight when you haven't really. You can have puffiness in your hands where like your rings won't go on. And then you can also have inflammation in your lipedema tissue. So decreased inflammation is good to pay attention to.
It really is. And I've noticed that inflammation can increase or decrease overnight. You know,
Yes.
one day I can be puffy, the next day I've slimmed out, especially like you're saying, in the face. I find that really interesting. When I am puffy in the face, I try to do my MLD for the face and try to get some of that out of there. But yeah, I find that it can happen very, very quickly to gain or lose some of that inflammation.
Yeah.
Also, decreased pain and achiness. Some of those body aches that we have, that pain in the legs, maybe that burning or that tingling sensation that we have, if we can get rid of some of that touch sensation, if we can decrease the amount of that pain that we have, isn't that just a wonderful victory to celebrate? Celebrate it.
Celebrate it. I can remember very distinctly after a few months of changing my nutrition plan and doing some of these therapies that I try to consistently do now. Sometimes I don't, but I can remember the day when I got out of bed and I walked out of the bedroom all the way to the kitchen without pausing. And that had not happened for months because I would get out of bed. Well, first of all, laying in the bed was not, it wasn't comfortable. And then getting up out of the bed wasn't comfortable. And then standing there wasn't comfortable. I would have to wait to let my body adjust and then take some steps, pause down the hallway. And that day, I didn't even realize I did it until I had done it. And so those things are so important. It's so important because that's an indicator that you've been doing something right and that your body is responding in a positive way.
Yep. Very.
Yeah. And going along with that is increased mobility, agility, and stamina. I was watching Lipedema Fitness the other day, and she put a video up where she got up off the floor, and I thought, what an amazing thing for some women. Like, they can get up off the couch, they can get up off the floor, they can do these things with their mobility that they couldn't do before. And agility and stamina the same. Like, maybe you're able to walk a little faster, walk a little longer. Maybe you're able to stand in your kitchen and cook a home meal.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client who was able to cook a meal for her family's gathering, and she had not been able to contribute a dish to her family's gathering in, I think it's been about 5 years.
Wow.
But her stamina has improved and she can stand in the kitchen long enough to cook. And it was huge for her.
Yeah.
So celebrate. You got to celebrate these things.
Yep. For me, I know that I wasn't able to stand in the kitchen. I was able to open up the freezer. I did have a healthy freezer meal in there, but that was about all I could do. Get it out of the freezer and into the oven, and then I had to go and sit down again. So, things like having that stamina to be able to stand in the kitchen, that's a really huge thing.
It is so big.
Celebrate your healthier food choices that nourish your body and staying hydrated.
I think
save me, Kelly.
Okay. I think we don't need to say a lot about staying hydrated, except that it's so hard. It is so hard to drink water. I don't understand why that is such a challenge, but it is. And so if you're able to increase your water intake, be happy about that. There's no rule that says you can't be happy because you drink enough water. Yes, you can. I'm happy when I drink enough water because as a busy mom and as I'm doing all these things, I forget to drink water. So on days when I drink all the water, that you don't have to have a big celebration, but you know what? You can give yourself a pat on the back.
Yep.
For drinking enough. That helps your health so much, just drinking enough water. And healthier food choices, we hear a lot about I cheated or I ate a cookie, and even some people with trying really hard to follow the keto way, I ate some grapes, or, women will beat themselves up over their food choices all day long. but they don't always celebrate when they make good food choices. And so for some women, I think they're dealing with so much with lipedema. They're dealing with so much just trying to carry the weight of that, and not the physical weight, but like the psychological things that come with having a chronic illness. If you're making healthier food choices, if you've given up most of your desserts and you've done that over the last 2 weeks, that's a reason to be proud of yourself.
Yes.
It really is. If you, like me, had to give up, what was the hard thing? I had to give up peppers and coconut and almonds all in the same week. And I did. And I didn't eat them. And that's good, because I knew they would make me feel terrible. So celebrate those little things that you've done for yourself with your food choices.
Yeah. And we're talking about the staying hydrated. I have this little app called Plant Nanny. So I guess I'm giving a shout out to the little app, Plant Nanny. But for every glass of water that I drink, you know, it makes this little ring sound, right? And my plant grows, and you know, so it's those little celebrations as I'm drinking my water. And then at the end of the day, you know, I get all my water in, you know, and it, you know, so even as simple as the healthy food choices and the staying hydrated, you can celebrate all of those little things because you are paying attention and doing great, great things for your body.
Yes, that's true. And anything you do, even if you think it's not really that important or it's just a baby step, you're still doing something. And that's more, you're doing more than doing nothing. And so we need to remember that one step at a time is how you're going to have success with this disease. You don't have to do everything every single day, but you do need to give yourself credit for all the little things that you're doing.
Yep, very good. So a little bit more about how we're going to gauge improvement and success. Some of the more subtle things to notice. So if you're able to decrease your recovery time after activity, I know when I've been at my worst, grocery shopping, it would take me 2 days to be able to recover from just, you know, going out and getting my groceries for the week. So having a downtime of 2 days, you know, that's a bit. If I'm able to decrease that some, you know, track things like that and celebrate them.
Yes. If you have better sleep and you're feeling more rested, then that is actually, I think people don't think about that. But if you're able to sleep,
that's true.
That means your body can be relaxed and at rest, and that something about your body is not waking you up all night. I know whenever I was having a lot of pain, it every point of my body that where the mattress was, you know, dipping in a little bit from my body weight, I could feel it. It was painful, every single one of those little points. And I was talking to a woman last week, and she said the same thing. And she said, I don't even have springs in my mattress, but it felt like all the springs that were in my mattress that aren't really there were poking me. Like she said, it seemed like a really old mattress where all the springs were sticking up and hurting my body. And I said, that's exactly how it felt. Like you could feel all those little points against the mattress. And when you are hurting that much, you don't have better sleep and you don't feel rested. And so I think we need to pay better attention to just the everyday things that are improving.
And because sleep is so important, you know, that's part of that cycle. During your sleep, you're healing. So if you're not sleeping through the night, then you're not able to heal. And that vicious cycle just keeps going. So when you are able to get that better sleep, you are healing and you're doing so much better. So again, celebrate that. Increased strength. And I know that this is a really important one for lipedema ladies, because it is very difficult sometimes for lipedema ladies to increase their muscle strength. We have issues potentially with having poor collagen in the body. And so we're not able to get that muscle engaged and to correctly work so that it gets that strength. Many lipedema ladies have very, very weak muscles, and it's almost no matter how much exercise they're doing, that's strength training, it seems that it might not even affect the muscles. So if you are able to increase your strength, then again, something to celebrate.
It is. And it can be in very small ways. I remember whenever I went and did some therapy with foam rollers, and it hurt. But if you know anything about foam rollers, I had to lay on the floor with a foam roller under my thighs. I was doing from thighs to knees. And so I'm on the floor. I couldn't hold myself up with my arms to use the foam roller. I had to lay on the floor and like crawl, like army crawl, with this foam roller under my thighs because I could not hold myself up with my arms. And after a few weeks, I was able to hold myself up with my arms. Now I'm not, out there doing push-ups with all these CrossFit people or anything like that. But that's not what we're talking about with these non-scale victories. These are small things like what I experienced that really, it made me feel so much better about myself. It's like, I really can make a small improvement. And those are the things that we really hope that all of you will learn how to notice.
The last one's one of my favorites, the softening and changing of the appearance of the lipedema tissue. That's indicating less fibrosis is there. When I was first heard of lipedema, my arms were so full of stagnant fluid that they were really just hard as rocks. In my imagination, I guess, I was thinking that, that's muscle, right? Because muscle, that muscle's hard. Yep. But actually, no, muscle is not hard. If you look at athletes, their muscles aren't rock hard. Their muscles are actually supple. And we need to get that fluid moving through our body so that we have some movement of our skin. It's not supposed to be rock hard and solid. So once those start to soften and change, that's really huge. You're really improving your system when that's starting to happen.
That's true. And I do want to throw a caution out there that it makes me sad. I've heard women say, but when I started working on getting the fluid out and breaking down those big hunks of fibrosis, it looks so much worse. So that means I'm getting worse. And not really. If your pain is decreasing and your tissues are softening, the thing is, under the skin, you can't really see what's going on. But if you have a huge hunk of fibrotic tissue and you're working on it and it's breaking down, it's going to break down into smaller hunks. And so the smaller hunks look worse under your skin. But if you keep working on it, those will break down even to even smaller hunks. And theoretically, eventually you will improve the appearance of your skin. So I hope that women won't think, oh no, I've really messed up all my tissues now, when they've gone to some sort of therapy or they're, doing all these different things. It can temporarily look kind of ugly, not really very nice, not like what you would want. But again, look at all those other things. How soft is your tissue? Is it painful? Is there less inflammation? Are you gaining some strength? So we want to look at everything with a big picture, not just focus on one narrow part of any of this.
And also realize when you have that fibrotic tissue, there's adhesions. So your skin is kind of adhered to that fibrotic tissue. And so that's going to be creating some of those dips in the skin. And so if you're able to break away some of those adhesions, it will actually kind of hopefully start smoothing out a bit. So, just keep some of this in mind while you're doing that. Some of these techniques are really painful at the beginning. But if you're able to do it lightly, you know, don't overdo it, do it lightly and bear with it, grit your teeth and get it done. Over time, it's going to become more and more easy to do some of these things. And your pain is going to decrease when we start getting that fibrotic tissue to break down.
Yeah.
Okay, some more subtle things to notice. Change in lipedema shape, so smaller fat pads around the knees, reduction in size of an area that's affected. I know for myself, one of the fat pads that I had underneath my knee that has decreased, and it's very hard for me to find it. Some days it's gone entirely. Yes. Some days, you know, it fills up with a little bit of fluid. You know, probably eating something not quite right, a little bit of inflammation, can see it a little bit, but most days it's gone now, and that's really, really exciting.
It is so good. And for me, I've noticed I was really frustrated because was doing measurements and it wasn't changing, it wasn't changing, and it wasn't changing. And one day I turned sideways in the mirror and I realized that my hips didn't start at my waist anymore. They started like down where my hips should go more. And I thought, okay, I haven't lost any of the measurement around, but my shape is changing. And so I realized that day it's not always about the measurement.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's not always. Sometimes you can see things like your shape changing, like the area getting, like if you have on your leg an area this big, it can be getting this, you know, that fibrotic tissue could be this big on your leg and now it's smaller. And that's a victory. So we need to look at those kinds of things. Also, improved confidence, mood, and positive outlook. So important. And a lot of women who are dealing with lipedema are only focused on the lipedema. But as we go through this process, it's so important to remember that your attitude and your ability to deal with all of this psychologically and mentally, it impacts your health. And so as we're able to be more confident and improve our mood and have a more positive approach to how we're dealing with things, instead of getting in that place where you're just complaining about it, whining about it, not to say that that doesn't have a place too, because this is hard, but we need to remember what we're telling ourselves every day has a huge impact on how our body is going to respond and how we're going to cope with having this illness.
Yeah, so true. Our next item is decreased anxiety and hopelessness. And I think it's really wonderful that we have so many social media platforms and the word is starting to get out. Women are finding each other, we're finding our groups, we're finding that there are techniques that are working. I know for me, finding out even that I had lipedema, now I had a name to it. You know, it's nearly impossible to try to fix something that you don't even know about. So once you know about it, at least now you have a focus and you can find those techniques that work. And yeah, I think social media is awesome that we're all able to talk to you guys.
I think that gives a lot of women hope and helps with that overwhelming feeling of there is nothing to do. And I'm just frustrated and anxious and upset. I think it really gives a lot of women hope that there are other people who are handling this, who are making progress, who are taking control of their health, and we see it every day. Every single day. In our own group, we see women who are so happy that they have finally found other women who actually understand. Mm-hmm. That hope is something that is going to either make or break how you deal with this journey with lipedema, I really think. And I don't know what, maybe the people watching, what exactly you need to hear, but I can tell you that there is someone else who has dealt with what you've dealt with and who's willing to help you if you reach out. And if you share your story, if we all start sharing, that's going to give us all more hope and more information, more ability to deal with this a little bit better.
Yeah, very true. Our next item is regaining or improving balance. And, you know, this is really a large one for many women with lipedema. Our ankles are sometimes not the strongest. And so, you know, we might be a little unstable on our feet. And so being able to improve our balance, that's really quite a huge victory as well.
It really is. Some people, I think when they gain the weight, their center shifts a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it really is hard when they're trying to walk differently, and there's pressure on their knees and there's pressure on their hip joints, and it's just kind of crazy. I don't think we think very much about balance, but I know that I've spoken to some women who balance is a really big thing. They have to hold on to something when they're walking, because even if they're not actually going to fall from losing their balance, they don't feel steady.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I talked to a woman last week who said she always has to hold onto the walls as she's going along in her house. And when she goes in the bathroom, she has to hold on to the door frame so that she can go through this one little part of her bathroom. And she said she realized she went in the bathroom and she wasn't holding on to anything, and she was just standing there. And so it's just those little things. You'll have these moments and you'll think, oh my goodness, this is a big deal. I haven't done this in a long time. Celebrate those moments. That's what we want to, that's what we're trying to do with this little presentation. Just help you realize to celebrate all those moments.
Yeah, so many women have that inner thigh fat pad and the fat pads on the inner knees. And so that affects both the stance and your gait, so the way that you walk. And so, you know, being able to improve your balance and overcome some of these issues is just really very important.
It's so important because it changes your quality of life.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you're closer to normal instead of having to make all these little adjustments in your life for this disease, that you're just living life, and it makes a big difference. And the last thing on here is increased energy and productivity. Also so super important for so many women. Because I think
very true.
I think all of us have dealt with really low energy and just not being able to do what we need to do in life.
Yes. Yeah, so true. And that heaviness in the legs and just overall tiredness and just not being able to encourage yourself to move. And so when you get that burst of energy back, it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
It is. And when you feel like you're like pulling your own weight, like you don't have to sit out from your family activities, or you don't have to skip going to those places with your friends, or, you know, you can just do normal things, accomplish normal tasks. It's really great. And we're not talking about, you know, taking on the world here. We're talking about little things. You know, instead of sitting on the sidelines, you go for that walk or that bike ride, or you are able to do small things. I can remember very clearly the day that I folded all the towels that we had washed all in one sitting, and my arms didn't hurt.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
It was amazing. And again,
I
didn't think about it until I got done, and I thought, I haven't done that in so long. My arms would hurt so much that it would take me all day to fold those towels just from that week. And that was ridiculous. And it makes you feel less, you know, it sort of makes you feel like you're not doing what you need to do. And it makes you doubt yourself, and it kind of makes you feel like a failure in all those tiny little tasks that you can't do. So when you can do them, you should celebrate. Celebrate all those things.
So our non-scale victories, they improve our quality of life. You are so much more than the number you see on that scale.
Yes, that is right. So we really want you to think about what are the little ways that you have improved your quality of life. What are some of those little things? Because for each of us, there's something out there that we really wish we could do. There's some kind of victory that you've had that you couldn't do last week or last month. And
Yep.
those little things, you need to take note of those. Take note of them and take a moment just to be grateful and to think about the good things that you're doing for yourself instead of being overwhelmed by how hard it is all the time. Take moments for that too, but take moments to remember that you're doing good and you do have things to celebrate.
Well, that's it for this edition of Lipedema Lite Bites. For more information, you can contact me through my webpage at lipedemadiva.com.
And my website is wildheart.health and email at info@wildheart.health.
And we have 2 Facebook groups, one for patients, lipedema and food sensitivities, take control of your lipedema, and for our healthcare and wellness providers, lipedema and food sensitivities healthcare community. I hope you guys decide to join up and meet us on Facebook. Take control of your lipedema.
And find some hope.
Yes, exactly. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.